Hey everybody, and welcome to another Cricut Craft tutorial. Before we get started, make sure you subscribe to my channel. It is totally free, and hit that bell icon because that will alert you to when I post a new video. That way you don't miss out on any of the fun stuff that we do. Today I'm going to show you guys how to design your own 3D shadow box. These are awesome because you can do so much with them and be so creative, and they make really wonderful gifts. We are going to learn how to do this exact shadow box here. And it's super simple by just taking shapes and designs from other things and combining them using slice and weld. I am so excited to show you guys how to do this, and I know you guys have been waiting forever for me to show you. It's just been kind of crazy lately. So let's go over to Design Space where I'm going to show you all the skills you need to make your own 3D lighted shadow box. As you can see, I already imported the images that I'm going to use, but we'll get to those in a minute because the first thing that we're going to need to do is make our frame for our 3D shadow box. So I'm going to start with shapes, and I'm going to start with a square. I just start with a 10 by 10 square because you can change it to any size that you want it to be, but I just think this gives me a lot of space to work with and it's easy to see at this size. So now what you'll need to do is go ahead and duplicate your 10 by 10 square. And depending on how wide you want your frame to be, you don't want the edging to be any less than typically an inch. I usually do like 1.25 inches, but I'm just going to do 1 inch for ease. So you take your second square and reduce it to 1 inch less than your main square. So a 10-inch square and a 9-inch square. I'm going to duplicate my 10-inch square one more time because we need to use this one for the background. So I'm going to slide him over. Don't worry. We'll get to him in a second. What I'm going to do is select both of these squares. So the 9-inch and the 10-inch square. And you're going to align them and you want to center them. Then you're going to simply click the word slice. You don't need the middle part of your square anymore, so just go ahead and delete it. Scoot him over. We'll play with him in just a minute. This right here is going to be our background. So you typically want a piece, a full sheet behind your entire design that you want to cut out little spots for maybe like stars or clouds or whatever design you're doing. But in this one, we're going to cut out fireworks. So we are going to do one of the designs that I made that I showed you guys how to assemble, but now we're going to show you how to make it. So I'm just moving this so I can see it. And all we're going to do is throw some fireworks into here onto our background. Now I need to send the square to back so that I can see where I'm going to place my fireworks. And one of the tricks that I'll sometimes use is take my frame and lay it on top of my other square just for a second, just to make sure I'm not cutting off any of my fireworks. So that looks really good. And I have a second set of fireworks that I loaded. So I'm going to move those over. I'm just using the arrows on my keyboard to move them over. And with these ones are kind of funky. I don't know what happened to them. So I'm probably just going to go ahead and delete them because they look really weird. I don't know why those are there. So I'm going to duplicate these ones because I want one on either side of our castle. And I'm going to flip these. So we're just going to go with flip. And we're going to flip them horizontal. And my phone totally just fell. So I'm just going to go ahead and double check that none of these are going to get cut off by the edge of my frame. I think that's pretty good. So we might move these over just a hair. But for the most part, I think that looks pretty good. So what we need to do now is to slice these. There's a couple ways you can do it. You can slice each individual set of fireworks, or you can select both fireworks, click on weld, then select the fireworks and the square, click on slice. It doesn't matter which way you do them. You can also attach them, but I find for this design, it's a lot easier for me to visualize once I have sliced it out because that'll show you what the back's going to look like. Now, for this one, we're going to need to move this to the front. And we're also going to need to duplicate because we're going to need several of these layers. So I'm going to slide this guy over because I don't need him anymore. Now, to make sure that you have everything lined up really well, we're going to select both squares, align them, and align them center. Now, this may seem like kind of weird that you do this, but the reason you do it is so that when you lay your next layer down, it's centered and it looks really, really nice. It is easier to make sure that, like I said, everything is well centered and layered. Now I have this brick background right here that we used, and I think it's really easy to use and it's fun, but I'm going to need to make it way bigger because there's kind of a funky spot on it, and I don't know where it is. Let me move these guys out of the way. Sometimes you just have to mess around with things and kind of figure out where you want stuff, how you want it laid out, things like that. So I'm going to move her out of the way. And I am going to go ahead and take a look at this. I think it looks pretty good, but it needs a line up here at the top in order to hold those bricks. So what we're going to do is use a shape. I'm just going to use a square. And all I'm going to do is unlock it and make it thinner. But I don't want this top brick section to be super thin because I need it to be able to hold up everything. So I need to just check how wide this is. So this is 6.84. So we'll just go ahead and make this also 6.84 wide. And what you can do is then weld them together. So select everything and click on weld. That way you have a nicer, thicker piece at the top because we need that to hold up the castle and Mickey and the partner statue and all of those pieces. So now what we'll need to do is take our bricks, and the bricks are going to take the entire base over here. So we're going to have to duplicate them and line them up a couple of times. Now, this section of bricks, now that we've put that thicker top line on, is a little bit too tall in my opinion. I think that it's going to make the castle sit too tall because we're going to put Tinkerbell on top of our castle. So what we need to do is to reduce it. Now, I know for a fact that I used a row of 7 bricks. So what we're going to do is just get a square. Super easy. The slicing part is way easy. So we're just going to count down 7 bricks. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we need to slice it right about-ish here. It doesn't matter if it's exact because we're going to weld this to the frame. I know this seems like crazy, but I couldn't find a smaller set of bricks to use. So we're going to go ahead and just delete those. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. So now all we need to do is line up our bricks along the base and the side of our design. This part's really simple. We're going to duplicate, and then all we need to do is, again, just line them up, and we will realign them once we kind of fill in this section, because you want to make sure that the top is aligned so that you have a nice straight line. Now you'll see that we kind of have an odd space where it's not quite touching the frame. The biggest thing that you need to think about is make sure that it is touching the frame. So you want to make sure that you have this over far enough that it's touching all the pieces. So you've got frame touching in several places so that when we weld this to the frame, it will hold. That's the big thing with these. You got to make sure that they do, in fact, touch the frame. So I'm going to select all of my 3 sliced pieces, so my 3 brick pieces. I'm going to align them, and I want to align the top of them. That makes sure that they are even across the whole thing. And we are going to then select the, not that one. We're going to select the frame that we're working with, which is this one. And we are going to click on weld. Now, it's really hard to see, and I can see that 2 of the bricks filled in. It's a little bit funky. So we're going to go ahead and click undo, and we're just going to move some stuff over and kind of mess with it because 2 of the bricks filled in, and I think it's just because this one was a little bit too close. So we are going to go ahead and work on getting that one a little further over. And then we'll move this one a little bit further over. Don't worry, it's totally fine. You're going to have to kind of mess with it a little bit. And it's totally, absolutely normal. This is just a matter of kind of playing with it and getting used to working with these things. But we're going to go ahead and click on weld again. And we are good. Nobody filled in. Now, I do find it a little bit easier to change the color of my pieces. It helps me sort of differentiate where each piece is sitting. So I'm just going to make them all bright colors. It makes things easier to see. So now you can see where your bricks are and all of that. The next thing that we need to do is add in our castle. So let's get our castle. Now it looks really little right now, but we're going to make it bigger. So don't worry because this castle is going to go on this one. So we're going to click send to front and we are going to put our castle in here. We're going to make it way bigger, because we want it to take up quite a bit of the frame. Because this is going to be kind of our main focal point. So you can kind of play with it, figure out about how big you want it to be. There's no right or wrong way to really do these other than to make sure that you have, in fact, made sure that things are all touching somewhere to hold them in place. So like I couldn't have this castle just floating in the middle. It has to be touching something. So I'm going to have it touch the bricks. So we'll go ahead and click on those two things and weld them, and the castle will turn purple. I do that also because it helps me see what color things are and like make sure that they're attached. So we're going to do the palm trees next, and we're going to send these to the front. Now, this is a part where you're going to kind of make your own designs. You're going to make your own decisions on how you want things. So I'm going to unlock these because I want them to be a little bit taller than they are wide. And I don't mind if they're touching the castle, but I kind of don't want them to. So we're going to slide them just a little bit. I do kind of want them to touch the frame though, because they're so tall, and that way they fit and they hold on to something. Again, I know this seems kind of confusing, but once you really start playing with it, you will learn how easy this really is to do. I'm going to duplicate these because I want another set of these on the other side. So let's go ahead and we're going to flip them horizontally, and then we're just going to try to line them up as evenly as we can with the other ones. It doesn't have to be perfect. Select both palm trees and the purple box and weld. That is two layers completely done. Really easy to do. Again, this is just a matter of playing with it, learning how to do it. It's all personal preference. So the next layer that we're going to do is going to give us kind of a more look with some more trees, because if you've ever been to Disney, there are a bunch of trees and stuff on Main Street, and I wanted it to fill it in a little bit because I think it just looks really nice. So we need to duplicate our frame again. Go ahead and click duplicate. I'm going to do the same thing I did when I moved the other frame over, and I'm just going to select all of them. I'm going to arrange them, and I'm going to center them. Now this one, we need to find our tree, which this guy will work. These are the two trees that I used. I used two different trees because I didn't want these ones to be completely, let me move this guy out of the way, he's in the way. I didn't want them to be totally the same. because they don't have all the same trees. But these ones are going to sit quite a bit lower. Now you'll see that they sit kind of weird right now. So there's two ways you can do this. You could either slice one of the trees out, or you can contour. I'm just going to slice it. I think it's a little bit quicker and easier for me. So all you have to do is select a box, select your trees, and click slice. And remember, you can only slice two things at once. So we're going to go ahead and delete this because we don't need it. And we're going to delete that guy because we don't need him. And I think there's like a weird spot somewhere. We left a little weird spot right here, but it shouldn't matter because we're going to go ahead and put this tree in. Now, these trees are going to sit so that they kind of cover the base of your palm tree. So they need to sit a little bit low. And this one's a little bit large, so you're going to size them down. Just, again, this is all personal preference, like however you want. And don't worry, these trees aren't just going to float in thin air, I promise. It'll be okay. We will cover up where the trees are sitting. And I think that guy looks pretty good. I want to make sure that a lot of the foliage from the tree is touching the edge here. Now, you'll kind of wonder, oh my gosh, it looks really weird because we just have these trees floating. Not a big deal. You can add simple rock or something to it. Sometimes you can find shapes in the design space. So I'm just going to look up the word rock and see what we get. We get these weird ones. So let's just try. You can get on Google and find like mound shapes and things like that. This is the shape I'm looking for. This is one I uploaded. I just looked up the word dirt mound and found some dirt mound pictures, and then I just cleaned them up in Design Space. So just make it bigger so that it covers your entire tree, and you don't want to leave any weird holes where it's going to cut. And I think I actually need to move this up a little bit, but maybe not. I think that's actually pretty good. So that one looks really good. So we're going to duplicate, and I'm going to flip. Nobody's going to notice that these are the same rock because we're going to change the shaping and things like that by like reducing it. And we're going to take this and unlock it. And I'm going to make it kind of wider and less rounded. And I'm going to move this tree up a little bit and over. I think that looks pretty good. So now again, what you need to do is make sure that you take all the pieces that you've added to this frame and weld. I'm going to change the color of this frame as well, and this frame is done. This was a really easy one. Again, I just do this so that you can get a good look at what it looks like. And now we're going to do our last frame. This one is a pretty small frame. Doesn't have a lot of layers. This one is our partner statue frame. So what I'm going to do, I need to move this one to the front. And I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing. I'm just going to select all. I'm going to align it. I'm going to center it. Or not. Sometimes Design Space has its own brain. So let's try again. We're going to go ahead and align and center. And again, Design Space with its insane brain. So let's go ahead and see what this thing is doing. This has a weird thing going on right down here for some reason. So if you have something like that, you can click on Contour and see if you see what is going on with these weird little spots. And maybe we can see if we can get rid of them. I'm not sure what those all were, but it happens. Okay, I think we fixed it. No big deal. It happens, and that's just a quick way to fix anything that maybe got sliced funny or whatever. So we're going to go ahead and center them. That is better. So now we're going to use our partner statue, which is, of course, Walt and Mickey. We're going to send these guys to the front. And you're going to place them wherever you like them to stand. It doesn't matter. It's kind of all personal preference. I think they look kind of good here. I think that looks pretty good. And I'm going to add a few clouds in. And I'm going to have to remember to add Tinkerbell because I almost forgot her. Oops, here's our mound. I forgot I added him. So we're going to add a couple of clouds just in the top. And you don't have to add the clouds. This is just personal preference if you want. I'm going to send this to the front. And I'm just going to put a little happy cloud over here. And again, you totally don't have to add the clouds if you don't want to. You can leave them off. It's just a matter of if you want to add them or not. But you know, Florida has clouds. So we're going to duplicate that cloud. And I'm just going to go ahead and place one right over here. And I think that looks pretty good. So we're going to just do those little guys. We are going to go ahead and weld. And then I accidentally forgot to select the frame, so we'll go ahead and weld it to the frame. And then we want to do Tinkerbell because she is definitely on that castle, so send her to the front. I didn't put her on because I want to make sure that I get her right where you can see her. And I think that looks really good. So what we're going to do is select Tinkerbell and the purple layer, and we are going to go ahead and weld. Now, you see it moved my purple layer to the wrong spot. That's okay. You can just drag it until it's in the right order over here in the layers panel. Sometimes this is a little bit finicky and it may drag it kind of funny. And you can see now it's kind of out of order. This is just Design Space has its days where it wants to get everything out of order. So let me select this guy. I'm just going to change its color so that it looks a little bit nicer. And there are your 4 layers. This is super easy to do. I will say I recommend cutting especially the brick part on cardstock intricate. I am not going to cut this all out because you guys have seen me assemble it. It's super easy to cut. Just make sure you're using cardstock intricate. I recommend using a 65-pound cardstock because you want to make sure that the light can shine through it. I'm going to show you guys the one that I made previously. It's a little bit different than this one, but still generally the same. It's exactly how I've done it. It's really pretty easy to do, and you can do this with all sorts of designs. Here is the finished box. I think it came out really cute, and it's super easy to do. Now, this one is going to look a little bit different than the one that we designed, just because this was the box that I did originally, but it's going to be almost the exact same. You can be so creative with your boxes and do lots of fun things with them. Theme them however you want to. There are lights in the back of this box. I will link those lights below, and I will also link below the assembly video to how I put this whole box together. Super easy to do, really fun, and these make amazing gifts. If you guys have any questions, please let me know in the comments down below. I'm always happy to answer those for you. Make sure you subscribe to my channel. I put out new videos on Wednesdays and Saturdays with the occasional bonus live video. I hope you guys have a wonderful day and happy crafting.